Oops. Oh, no, sorry about that. I got to be able to see my screen a little bit. All right. Should have done this before. All right. Don't look at me. See, my wife, she always looks at me when I'm doing things, and then I mess it up, you know. If you're a husband, you know what I mean. Don't watch me, so I won't screw it up. All right. So let's see if this works. All right, the disclaimer, obviously, you got to consult your provider prior to any changes in your diet. Because one thing about this is if and when you start eating this way, you're going to see rapid changes in your blood sugar and your blood pressure. The diet is called a therapeutic diet, and as you were looking through the handouts, you might have thought to yourself, wow, this is strict. The therapeutic diet for any chronic disease is very, I'll use the term strict. And the better you are, the closer you are to 100% compliance, the better result you get. When you see some of the case studies I'm going to share with you today, you will see that when somebody does 100% of what I've taught them, drastic lowering of blood sugar, blood pressure, and lipids. It'll blow your mind to see how fast that comes about. And interestingly, the McDougall 10-day intensive plan in Santa Rosa, California, he finds within the first 2 to 3 days on his eating style, people are using less medication in half. Their insulin is halved, and within the first 10-day period, most of them are off insulin. And that's with no restriction on the amount that they eat. No restriction. They have a buffet and they just say, eat all you want. And this is the changes that occur very rapidly. So you'll need to tell your doctor, your provider, if you're going to do this, because you're going to see rapid changes. Now we see COVID. We know that during the COVID period, the people that died had comorbidities, and you see them here: hypertension, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, coronary artery disease, and the list goes down. But look at hypertension is the #1 factor in deaths in COVID. And you don't have to raise your hand, but how many people here are on blood pressure medications? 85% of people over the age of 65 are on some type of blood pressure medication. It's the #1, you know, other than Prozac for depression, it's the #1 medication that's provided to people. So we don't want these comorbidities. It's during COVID or anything, anyway. And I see here that 86% of the deaths at this time had involved at least one comorbidity. Of course, age was a factor as well. Chronic diseases in America, 6 in 10 have one. Hypertension, that's one right there. 4 in 10 Americans have 2 comorbidities or more. So if you're on a lipid medication and you're on a pill for blood pressure, you got 2. If you're on a diabetic medication, you got 3. You know, so they add up, and as they add up and as your medications add up, you have side effects from the medications that happen, you know, over time. They affect your kidneys. So, you know, we want to try to reverse these diseases. And what are they? Well, we have heart disease, cancer, we have stroke, diabetes, kidney disease. And the newest one you'll hear about is fatty liver disease. You're seeing people that, because of the amount of fat in their diet, their livers are getting gummed up with fat, and it's causing major problems which can lead to liver failure and death. That's one you're going to see as obesity rates increase. Diabetes is rising. This is not controversial. You're seeing it go up, and you're seeing it go up in areas that we didn't see it go up traditionally, like Southeast Asia, in the Mediterranean, in Iraq and Iran, and the Middle East. You're seeing it triple. Why? abundance in food, abundance in rich foods. There's a lot, they have a lot of money there. And when you see money, you see, I'm going to fall over. You see money, you see people eating rich foods and gaining weight. You see that in 1980, 3%, 5%, 4%, and you're seeing them double, 7%, 7%, 8%. And in the United States, which is one of the highest rates, you see you're going to have right now about 37 million people in the United States with diabetes. 1 in 5 don't even know they have it. And then you have prediabetes, which is just a precursor to diabetes, which means your sugar's high, not high enough to give you medication. And so, yeah, you got prediabetes. Okay, what should I do? Well, lose some weight, clean up your diet. It doesn't happen. Then you're on pills, then you're on more pills, then you're on insulin. It's a progressive disease. Something to consider. What kills diabetics? Heart disease is the #1 killer in diabetics. It's actually the #1 killer in the world. You know, we were thinking about COVID deaths, and every year in this country over 600,000 people die of heart disease. 40% have their first and last heart attacks. So all you do is look in the obituaries and you'll see Joe died unexpectedly. How old? Well, maybe he's 65. Maybe he's 70. Maybe he's 44. You're seeing more and more young people now dying unexpectedly from heart disease. It's not surprising with the diets that we're seeing today. You see that vascular causes of death, ischemic heart disease, is when you have a blockage in your heart, you have a heart attack, and you die. And of course, with diabetics, it's much greater than non-diabetic people. What causes diabetes? If I said to you, what causes diabetes, what would you think? What would your answer be? Any answers?
Sugar.
She says sugar.
Cheese.
Somebody says cheese. Somebody says fat. There's a multiple factors that cause diabetes. You have genetics. Your genetics are a part of that. High blood pressure is related to diabetes. High fat and cholesterol. That's why many people are on lipid-lowering medications. The #1 thing is overweight, being sedentary, and even smoking causes diabetes, which is kind of weird. You wouldn't think smoking would be related to diabetes, but it's related to diabetes. It's also related to breast cancer and prostate cancer. Are carbs the enemy? Do carbs cause diabetes?
No.
No. If you look at the cultures that eat the most carbs, up until around 1980, they had the lowest risk factors and the lowest rates of diabetes. And you think of Japan and China and Asia, what do they eat? Rice and noodles and wontons. How often? Every day. Every meal? Every meal. Carbs are not the enemy. There's a big controversy now over carbs. It's not carbs. And it's not sugar. It's a myth. Ada. Diabetes, your sugar will go up if you eat sugar and high sugared foods, but sugar does not cause diabetes. There was a study done in the 1930s called the rice study where they gave people rice. All they gave them was rice, large quantities of rice. They measured their blood sugar. They were normal. Then they gave people a high-fat, high-meat diet. They measured their sugar and their insulin levels, and it caused high sugar. It's not sugar that causes diabetes. And high-carb diets are not related to causing diabetes. As we just said, if you look at the cultures that eat the most carbs, you find if they're not eating carbs with large amounts of fats and animal foods, they have a low rate of diabetes. If you look at diabetes in China, China now has the highest rate of diabetes in the world. And if you look at it, in 1980, less than 5% of Chinese men had diabetes. Now it's greater than 10%. It's doubled. Diets that are too high in sugar and fat, people not getting enough physical exercise. More than 1/3 of adults in China are overweight, while 7% of adults are obese. Now, you never saw really obese Asian people up until now. You're seeing it. If they're not eating a traditional Asian diet, they tend to gain weight. In Japan, you're seeing the same thing. As you look at this chart, you see that the fat intake here is going up since 1950. This is not carbs. I looked at this, I'm thinking, wow, carb intake's going up. No, this is cars. As they got more automobiles, they stopped walking. So now you see the rate of diabetes here, and now you see it up here. Again, it's doubled in Japan, which was the lowest rate of diabetes worldwide up until around 1980. So what happened? What happened in 1980? What happened in the 70s and 80s? Well, McDonald's went over to Tokyo and Osaka and Beijing. So as McDonald's came over there and they started eating this, they got obese. They started getting diabetes in a higher rate. Did it happen here? I remember when I was in Boy Scouts, we were on a trip and we went to McDonald's. I think it must have been in the 70s. We thought it was just great. We thought it was great. Everybody must have thought it was probably pretty great at that time to have McDonald's. But now it's causing major trouble. As you'll see when we look at the fat content of what you're getting when you're eating this food. So, carbohydrates. When you think about carbohydrates and you look at how carbohydrates affect death, what we see here is the highest risk of death comes from a low-carb diet. Now, you've heard a lot about low-carb diets recently, keto diets and paleo diets, and they are actually an improvement over the standard American diet. They'll give you an improvement short term, but in the long term, you have the highest rate of death. The lowest risk is from a moderate carb diet in the middle of the screen. And then you see a little bit of raised risk from a high carb diet. Now this is a high carb diet that's loaded with sugar and loaded with refined carbohydrates. Your risk of death goes up, but your highest risk of death comes from low carbohydrate. And you'll see why as we talk about the benefits of carbohydrates in reducing your risk of early death. The main driver in diabetes is weight. And you see here that as this chart shows you, as obesity is going up the yellow line, you see the diabetes rate is following it. We know people are bigger now. We know people have more weight now. We see children obese, and we're seeing children with type 2 diabetes that we've never seen before because of obesity. This is the main driver of diabetes if you have a genetic predisposition, is your weight. We see that if we look at people that eat meats, they have the highest BMI, which means the highest average weight. The semi-vegetarian, slightly better. The fish eater, slightly better. The egg and milk eater, slightly better. But you see the vegan is the only group that has the BMI in the normal weight range. As you cut back on animal foods, as you cut back on added oils, you're going to see your weight drop rather quickly. There are healthy people that are not vegans that can eat small quantities of animal foods. I mean, when you look at the Japanese diet, you see that meat in their diet is basically for flavoring. The majority of their diet is rice, and they add vegetables to it. But the meat supply is getting corrupted as we get more Roundup in the foods, we get more pesticides in the foods, and they're doing it because of money. We want you to live long, and we want you to actually live better and not be doctoring as you get into your aged. So fat makes you fat, clogs up your cells and liver, and increases insulin resistance. This is a new concept. What we're finding now is fat intercellularly at the cellular level causes insulin resistance. Now, fat's a three-letter word, but they call it intermyocellular fat. They have to make it scientific, right? And so the high-fat diet causes fat to get caught up around your cell, and the key, the insulin, which opens the cell up to the blood sugar, can't get in. It's clogged up. And as you see here, the obesity rate's going up because the fat intake is going up. Since 1980, this is the amount of fat intake that's going up, and you see the obesity rate going up following it. People are eating more fat, and as they eat more fat, they get fat. Then you also see in this picture the cell. The cell, it gets covered with fat, and the key, insulin, cannot get into the lock and cannot open the cell up. It also gums up your liver and your muscle. And so you're having insulin resistance based on fat intake. People are focusing on carbs. The doctor's going to tell you, eat less carbs. You're going to restrict your carbohydrates. You're going to eat more meat and fat because there's no carbs in it. You're going to lose a little bit of weight. Then you yo-yo back and forth. Your sugar goes up and down. You're on pills. You're on metformin. Then you're on glipizide. Then you're on, and you just keep going up and up until your pancreas burns out. And then you're on insulin for the rest of your life. You need to remember this point. Fat intake, intercellular fat, gums up the whole method, the whole thing, and creates high blood sugar. If we look at carb intake and obesity, we see that carb intake was going up, and then in the year 2000 or so, people said stop eating carbs, so they ate less carbs, but what happened to the obesity rate? Still went up. People are eating too much fat. People are eating fat. Somebody said cheese. When you look at the amount of cheese eaten in this country, in the 1930s, people ate about 6 pounds of cheese per person per year. Now it's about 33 pounds of cheese per person per year. Is cheese on everything? Is bacon on everything? It is. And this is what is creating this epidemic of high blood sugar, obesity, high blood pressure, and heart disease. The fat is the problem. Animal fat causes diabetes. Again, you see it here. The key cannot get into the lock to open up that cell to let the sugar in. It mostly happens with saturated fat coming from animal foods. But if you pour olive oil on everything, you're going to get the same results. When you look at the prevalence of diabetes, again, we looked at the weights of people that were vegan, and we saw very low rates of obesity in the vegans, and same thing here. 2% for vegans, 2.5% if you're eating eggs and milk. Pesco means you're eating some fish. Semi-veg and the non-vegetarian has the greatest risk and the greatest rate of diabetes in the world.
What?
Question?
What did you just say?
Did I say it wrong? Oh, vegans have the lowest risk.
Right.
Excuse me. Thank you, Joan. That's my wife. She corrects me. I call her the scrutinizer because she scrutinizes me. That sounds bad, but it's usually good. She keeps me from hitting other cars, you know, brake lights up ahead. I get a little bit grumpy about it, but then I said, you've saved me many times, right, Joan? I have said that. This is the blue zones. They did a study, National Geographic did a study of the areas of the world where people live to be over 100 and are still climbing mountains, having gardens, and living a good life. These are 3 of those areas. You see Loma Linda at the top. That's in California. It's the highest amount of Adventists live there. Sardinia, Italy, to the left. and Okinawa, Japan to the right. And when you look at the middle of this slide, this is everything that they have in common. These are the things that these three groups have in common. Close family knit, no smoking. You see plant-based diet right there in the middle, moderate physical activity, social engagement, and legumes. Those are beans. Those are the things that these groups have in common. Now, some of the things they have differently here, you see that in Okinawa, they have high soy consumption. Now, in Loma Linda, they have high soy consumption as well. We eat tofu here, no alcohol. The Okinawans really don't drink. The Italians, they're drinking wine. No, that's not a surprise. We don't want you to drink wine. It's not that healthy. But the plant-based diet is what all these cultures have in common. And if you want to live to be 100 without doctoring and being on these medications and having problems, this is what you want to do. The plan. Now we have different ways of looking at it. There's forks over knives. There's Dr. McDougall, the healthiest diet on the planet. The End of Diabetes, Joel Fuhrman. All of these plans from 3 different doctors have the same basic meal plan. And that plan is what we call a whole food, plant-based, no oil diet. Now, I eat this way, and when I started eating this way, I will tell you the no oil part of the diet was the most challenging part for me. When you realize how much oil you are eating in your butter, in your margarine, in your mayonnaise, in your salad dressing, in your stir fries, in your bacon, in your hot dogs, in your ice cream, in your French fries, you will be shocked. We had students that would come to the VA for their residencies, and they would come in, and I said this to a student. I said, you know, most of my patients are eating too much fat. And she said, well, most of the other dietitians are talking about carbs. And I said, it's the fat content. She went home and she came back the next day and she goes, you're right, we're eating way too much fat. She looked at how much fat her family was eating. And when you see how much fat you're eating, and when you cut it, you'll see why you get such a drastic change in your weight, your blood pressure, and your cholesterol. Joel Fuhrman, he pushes more vegetables. Dr. McDougall, he pushes more starch. I like Dr. McDougall's plan, and it's on your handouts, because you get satisfied by eating starch. If you're only eating vegetables, you may be hungry, and it causes problems if you're hungry. You can't be hungry. You have to be satisfied. And that's why Dr. McDougall on his 10-day intensive says to people, eat all you want from this buffet and just eat it. They still drop their blood sugar. The average weight loss in the 10-day plan is 7 pounds. That's just eating all you want. So you can use these books. You can go online and look at YouTube videos. They're all going to tell you the same thing. Whole foods and no oil. No added oil. Of course, the Journal of Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics says that vegan and vegetarian diets are adequate for all nutrition. And if you look at this, lower body mass index, they're thinner. We already saw that. Lower rates of death, we saw that. Lower blood cholesterol, we know that. Lower blood pressure, hypertension, we know that. Low diabetes, prostate, and colon cancer, we know this. It will help you in every avenue of your health. You'll see why as we go forward. It's the best way to go. If you make a commitment to it, you're going to get drastic benefits.
That website on the bottom?
That's eatingourfuture.com.
Okay.
Yep. So clinically, you're not going to have any problems if you eat this way. Vegetarian diets prevents chronic disease and restore your health. Here's case study number 1. Down 83 pounds in 18 months. This is me when I was 273 pounds. This is me at 183. So I got a stent in my heart, had chest pain, had problems, got a stent. My doctor, who eats this way, said, whole food, plant-based, no oil diet. Lost 20 pounds in the first 30 days and got off all my medication. It's a good case study. Case study number 2, 68-year-old male. This is at the VA. Whole food, plant-based diet. Weight, 2010 to 2016, up 25 pounds. That's here to here. This is normally what we see in people. This is not unusual. Whole food, plant-based diet, no oil, down 97 pounds in less than 2 years. Quite remarkable for a 68-year-old man. I'm not sure if this is the one that gained it back, but after he stopped, he gained it all back. It might be the next one, I'm not sure. But this is a 97-pound weight loss. So if you think 9/22, 9 of 2015, then 10 of 2016, that's a year. So this is actually less than 18 months, 100 pounds. Case number 3, a 71-year-old whole food plant-based diet. Again, you're seeing from 2013 to 2016, any change? No. Not really. And now you see here, he's up 16 pounds in basically 3 years, and now he's down 61 pounds from June of 16 to June of 17. It's pretty good if you can lose 60 pounds in a year. You're losing basically 5 pounds a month. It's very good. This works. It's not just this gentleman, but it might have been this gentleman, but there was a guy who got off 100 units of insulin within 3 months of eating this way. Whole food, plant-based, no oil. You want to eat the foods in their whole food state. Key thing, it's whole foods. So you got the grains, you got the vegetables. You got bread. You know, bread isn't highly nutritional, but we like it. You just can't put butter on it. You know, you're going to put butter on it, you're going to stay fat. You're going to have diabetes, and your sugar's going to be high. Why no oil? Why no oil? Again, this is the challenge for people, because when you start looking at how much fat you're eating, you're going to see you're eating way too much oil. And oil is calorie dense. We see that if we look at the calories per gram, protein has 4 calories per gram, carbohydrate has 4 calories per gram, but fat has 9 calories per gram. It's 2.25 more calorie dense than carbohydrate or protein. And if you went on a high protein, low carb diet, you would be restricting your calories quite a lot, so you would lose some weight. If you look at the percentage of calories eaten in our country, you see that the majority, 62%, is processed food, oil, sweets, and refined grains. Whole grains, 3%, unrefined plant foods, 10%, meat, eggs, dairy, and fish, 26%. This is driving the obesity epidemic. The processed foods. They're nutritionally sparse, they don't have a lot of nutrition, and they're also loaded with fat. Oil is not a health food. If you're going to get fat, get it from whole foods like nuts and seeds and avocados. But if you're trying to lose weight, you still have to watch the amount, because you want to have a handful of nuts, not a canful. If we look at the calorie density, we see that the oils have 4,000 calories per pound. You say, I'm not going to eat a pound of oil. Right, but you're going to be using way more oil than you think, because it's in your salad dressing, it's in your butter, it's in your mayonnaise, it's in your margarine. You see that vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, 100 calories per pound. Eat a pound of Bill Fickett's lettuce, and you're not going to gain any weight, or his cabbage, or his zucchini. When you get down into the starches, like the beans and the rice and the grains, you still have 500 calories per pound. You can eat a pound of pasta and it's only 500 calories. You're not even going to eat a pound of pasta. So as we go down and we see the nuts and seeds, almost 3,000 calories per pound, but the oils, calorie dense. Broccoli, how much fat? Less than 1 gram, 31 calories. That's in a cup. Whereas your fries or your onion rings, 25 grams of fat. Now, if we just think of 9 calories per gram, and we say, let's just make it 10 calories per gram, you see your French fries are 250 calories just from the fat. You see your croissant sandwich, 360 calories from fat. Your chicken ranch, where's the fat coming from? From the ranch dressing. Your double burger, 50 grams of fat. That's 500 calories just from the fat in your burger. And on we go. The pizza, 30 grams of fat in 2 slices. If you can keep it at 2 slices, take the pepperoni off, you just took another 10 grams off. Take the cheese off, you just took 30 grams off. We have pizza without cheese. People think we're nuts. I call in, I go, no cheese, and you go, you mean double cheese, right? No cheese. I think you're kind of crazy. The fat grams do add up rather quickly, as you can see. Other benefits of whole food, no oil diets. You get the antioxidants. Antioxidants, you might have heard the word. What it means is antioxidation. Now, what is oxidation on your truck? Rust, exactly right. Antioxidants prevent premature rusting of your body. That's premature aging. So you want to have antioxidants, and they come in the plant kingdom. There's really only one animal food that has antioxidants, and that's the fatty fishes like salmon and mackerel and sardines. You live in Maine, you probably ate some sardines in your life. I tell people if you're going to eat fish, eat sardines because they're low on the food chain. They're 3 to 4 ounces. It's a small can, and they're not eating large fish with mercury and PCBs in it. So if you want to have fish, eat a can of sardines occasionally. The antioxidant content of plant foods, you see over 1,100 plant foods have antioxidants, and you see animal-based foods is 18. And those are basically in the fish. But the oceans aren't getting much cleaner either. So as pollution damages your fish, it's going to have more toxins in it. What are some other benefits? Well, you have fiber. One of the ways that high fiber diets reduce your blood sugar is because of the fiber. It traps actually carbohydrates in your gut and you eliminate it. I mean, look at the benefits of fiber. Your immune function, well, there's COVID. Your bowel movements, well, there's, you're not constipated. Your lipids go down. Diverticulitis, it helps. Colon cancer, that's the #1 killer of cancer in this country is colon cancer. Why? High fat, low fiber diets. It helps you lose weight, and at the top, it controls your blood sugar. People don't even really talk about fiber anymore. I was kind of surprised. I always talked about fiber with my patients, especially after I started eating this way. I'd say, how much fiber are you getting? It's like, well, I don't know. You're supposed to get 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. The average American gets 13 grams of fiber per day. So it's not a real surprise that we're seeing high lipids, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. You're not getting enough fiber. The plan is what we call the power plate. Now, I put a copy of that in your handout so you could use it as a guideline. Fill your plate with vegetables, grains, beans, and fruits. The U.S. Agricultural Society department says you should have a half a cup of beans every day. Now, if you're in our group, we eat a lot of beans, but most people don't eat beans every day in some way. You can put them in your salad, you can put them in your soup, you can make a bean burger out of them, but you're not getting enough fiber. Half a cup of black beans has 7 grams of fiber. You got 7 right there. If you add your oatmeal with your nuts and your banana, you got another 7. So you're over halfway there. Keep your complex carbohydrates. Avoid refined carbs if you can. White bread, sugar, fruit juice, white rice. It's interesting, you can't get Japanese and Chinese people to eat brown rice. We don't even battle it anymore. We just say, eat the rice, eat the vegetables, stay away from McDonald's, and you'll be healthy. It's a cultural thing. White rice isn't highly nutritional, but as long as you're not adding loads of fat to it, you're not going to gain weight or raise your blood sugar. Candy, cookies, pretzels, you see these things. And on the left side, you see the whole grains with the fiber and with the nutrition. Sweet potatoes, even white potatoes are highly nutritional. We eat potatoes. My wife, she's from Michigan. They have a lot of good potatoes. She eats potatoes all the time. So we grew, how many feet of potatoes did we grow this year? 50 feet of potatoes. We're going to have our own potatoes because potatoes went up. The organic potatoes we used to get for $3 for 3 pounds, now it's $5.99, double, $4.99. And oatmeal. If you're not eating oatmeal, you're missing out on a high nutrition breakfast. Now you're mostly older people. Older people, they like oats. Try to get young people to eat oatmeal. Doesn't really happen. And it's inexpensive. Oatmeal's inexpensive. Like I say, add some walnuts, add some raisins, add a little almond milk to it, some cinnamon, your sugar's gonna drop, you're gonna lose a lot of weight. It's not exciting. It's not exciting like bacon and eggs and home fries. But that meal right there, bacon, eggs, home fries, toast, and butter, 55 grams of fat right there in your breakfast. Oats. This is the breakfasts that we want you to eat. Oatmeal, pancakes, waffles, toast. And people say, you want me to eat all those carbs? My doctor told me not to eat carbs. We want you to eat carbs without fat. Dry cereal with almond milk, soy milk, oat milk, hemp milk, any plant milk. Eat the cereal with it. It's very simple and it's easy. And you could have a tofu scramble if you want. That's scrambled tofu with some turmeric in it. Have some toast without the butter and one of your tomatoes, and you'll be thinking you're really eating high. These are some breakfast ideas that you can use. For lunch, potatoes. Joan makes great mashed potatoes and gravy. You can make gravy without oil. It's just basically a plant-based broth thickened with some flour. You can have roasted potatoes in your air fryer. Colcannon, this is an Irish dish that Joan makes. It's cabbage sautéed in broth. You mix it with your mashed potatoes. It's quite good. You got to try it. Cabbage mixed with onions and potatoes. Joan, you getting hungry, huh, Joan? Yeah. Colcannon. You can go online. All these recipes are online. Takes you 2 seconds. They're right there. No oil. You don't need the oil. And then you can have sweet potatoes or baked potatoes. We put hummus on it. It's a challenge not to put fat on your potatoes. You know, you want to put butter and sour cream and these things. We use salsa. We use a lot of hummus. And we use hummus as a base for our salad dressings. Potatoes. A lot of people, when I say, make potatoes the main dish, it's like, well, how? You just make starch the main dish. It satisfies you. These are comfort type foods. You have soups. This is Joan's black bean soup. It's delicious. Look at the colors in there. Look at the antioxidants you're getting. You can have chili. You know, eat your beans. Remember, you're going to get a lot of fiber. You're going to get a lot of antioxidants. It's going to lower your blood sugar. The corn chowder. You know, and we can go on with soups. How many different types of soups are there? You know, you could have pea soup. You either like pea soup or you don't, right? You know, you can have all kinds of soups, minestrone soups. You can make, there's just unlimited. Have some bread with it. Joan makes no-knead bread. It's delicious. Pasta. You know, again, make pasta the main dish. You have regular pasta salads. You have, you know, pasta with marinara on it. It doesn't have to have meat in it or oil. If you want to transition by using some of those plant-based meatballs, you could, but they do have oil in them. If it tastes really good, it's got oil.
Or sugar.
Or sugar. All right. We didn't do the SOS lecture. I should have done that. That's salt, oil, and sugar. And noodles. You know, again, you could have lo mein noodles, but again, if you get it out, you're going to have a lot of oil. That's why it tastes so good. But the Japanese and Chinese, they eat lots of noodles, wontons, and rice. You're not going to find a fat one unless they're eating McDonald's and the fast foods that are Americanized. So make noodles part of the main dish. Burgers. This is the black bean burger that we make. It's very easy. It's made with oats and black beans and salsa. You mix it together and you bake it. It's great. Fat-free burger. Wraps. You can have wraps with all kinds of vegetables in them. These, again, are simple meals that you can make to take with you on picnics or these types of things. Load it up with all kinds of vegetables. Again, use hummus instead of mayonnaise, you know, and so you're not adding all those fat grams to your sandwich. These are carrot hot dogs. Now, this person came up with a really interesting concept. You take a carrot and you cook it, then you put it in some soy sauce and some other seasonings, and it marinates, and then you grill it. It's fantastic. We had one at a cooking demonstration a couple years back. If you go online and try it, you won't believe how good it is. That's a carrot hot dog. Fat-free. Once you put all the goobage on it, you're just getting texture. You're going to put all your relish and onions and stuff on it. You're not going to believe how good that is. Remember that, Joan? We had some carrot hot dogs. Amazing, amazing. And then you have the meatloaf, which Joan makes out of lentils. The meatloafs are great. They have lentils and oats and ground walnuts in it. You put some gravy on it, have some mashed potatoes and some green beans, and you'll be in great shape. These are other menu ideas, because people say, what am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? You make starch the main dish, add the vegetables, have a salad as big as your head. You're going to be great. And the rice. This is the rice and beans. You have the rice with the vegetables. Again, if you go to a Chinese restaurant, you can say steam the vegetables. Don't put them in the wok with the peanut oil. Just get the white rice or the brown rice, throw it on there with some soy sauce. Again, you're going to have a lot of sodium. But what we're talking now is we're trying to get that insulin resistance down at the cellular level so that qi can get into the lock and the glucose can get into your cells. As you eat this way, you're going to drop weight. Weight loss is going to drop your sugar as well. This is how you're going to reverse your diabetes, unless you've gone past the point of no return. If you've been a diabetic for an extremely long time with high degree of insulin resistance, your pancreas may be done. But you will need less insulin. And you may need less of these medications that hurt your liver and your kidneys and these types of things. Eat the rice. This is the fried rice that you get from, and there's no oil in it. So again, you just go on Google and you look up no oil fried rice. You're going to get numerous recipes. No oil dressings. You're going to have numerous recipes. Because you'll see people are trying to eat this way. That was surprising to us that so many people were actually eating this way. It made it easy for the recipes. Supplementation. So you do need supplements. B12 is a supplement that most vegans and vegetarians need, but they don't need it until a long time after starting to eat this way. We recommend just taking it. It's in your multivitamin anyway, or you can go to Rite Aid or you can go to Walgreens and get a very small dose of B12.
How much does somebody need of B12 a day?
It's so small. If you're eating animal food, you don't need it at all. Right. This happens usually 2 to 10 years after you eat this way. You might have a deficiency. But there are people that eat animals that have a deficiency as well. I don't know what the RDA is for B12. I should. Get the smallest amount you can. You're going to be fine. D3. We know from COVID studies that the people that die of COVID are low in D3. Here in Maine, about 85% of people are low in D3. Most of my veterans, the D3 was through the floor. It causes depression. It wrecks your immune system. You should take D3, especially in the winter. You're not getting enough sunlight to keep your D3 levels high. 1,000 international units of D3. Magnesium, if you have high blood pressure, you probably are low in magnesium. You can take 500 milligrams of a magnesium oxide or a magnesium combination. You can get it on Amazon for $14. If you take it, you're going to see your blood pressure drop, but always ask your doctor. He's going to say, well, probably it's not going to hurt you. They don't know a lot about nutrition. Vitamin C, take it. It's a water-soluble vitamin. You're going to pee it out, but it enhances your immune system. People that have the most vitamin C, usually from fruits and vegetables, live the longest. You can take 500 milligrams. The RDA for vitamin C is 60. Just take 500. You're going to be fine.
That water-soluble?
Water-soluble just means that you pee it out, whereas fat-soluble vitamins you tend to retain in your body. So like vitamin A, you don't want to take large quantities of vitamin A. It goes to your liver and can gum up your liver. So,
but the vitamin B12 is water-soluble?
No, that's fat-soluble. But you're only going to get a small amount, and you probably don't need it anyway. Do you ever have an egg?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't need it.
I don't know. I went to the doctors and I didn't have any vitamin B12.
Your B12 was low.
Right, because I've been a vegetarian for a long time.
Right. So again, even meat eaters have low B12. I think you take 60 on that, but I'm not sure. You look it up on your phone what the RDA is. I don't have my phone.
RDA?
Yeah, that's the recommended daily amount. And zinc, this is another way to increase your immune system. Yes, Doris?
I got a question though, because she was saying that she is low. So the recommended daily amount is for normal maintenance.
Correct.
But if you are
good point.
low,
you might have to take a higher dose to get it up.
Yeah.
Right. That's okay. Good point. I didn't even think of that. Zinc, take 30 milligrams a day. Most people are low in zinc intake. Again, this is for your immune function. People have questions about supplementation. I threw it in there. Okay, here's your quiz. Diabetes is caused by eating too much sugar and carbohydrates. True or false? False. It is false. Diabetes is caused by genetics, obesity, stress, high-fat diets. Remember, the fat content of your diet, which decreases the cellular mobility of getting that key into that lock, is the main reason you have insulin resistance. Fat intake is a primary contributor to insulin resistance at the cellular level. True or false? True. Just what I just said. Fiber and antioxidants are abundantly found in animal foods. True or false? False, right. There's actually no fiber in animal foods, and so that's a good reason to eat more plant foods. I mean, there are some nutrients in animal foods, like iron. Most people don't need iron, but there is iron in kidney beans and beets and red foods. You know, anything that's red, spinach has a good amount of iron. It's not as bioavailable as in animal foods, but as we saw, the Academy says a vegan diet will give you all the nutrition you need and give you lower rates of death, hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. End of story. That's all you need to know. There's diabetes all through my family, so I can't really avoid it. True or false? False. That's false. Genetics loads the guns, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. So you could have a genetic predisposition for it. It doesn't mean you have to have it. And when you see it, twins, one twin, they're identical twins. One goes to a family that eats lots of fat, lots of sugar, obesity. They get diabetes. The thin one doesn't get diabetes because of lifestyle.
So,
Yes.
the question, children, have the diabetes 1. Is this going to help, this whole diet?
It will actually help the insulin resistance. Because there's no insulin, the pancreas is not making insulin,
Okay.
you need insulin. But what happens is by eating a low-fat diet, high-fiber vegan diet, what happens is they need less insulin. And what kills diabetics? What's the disease that kills diabetics? Heart disease. So you actually keep your heart from getting clogged up with cholesterol and all these things. So it gives you longevity, and you need less insulin for the same amount of carbs you're eating. You still have the cellular problem, even though you have to augment with insulin for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Good question. That's a very good question. I need to eat meat to make sure I'm getting enough protein. True or false? False. False. That's false, right. So where does a cow get its protein? Grass. Right. So the ape gets its protein from grass as well. No meat at all, you're sure you're getting enough protein. There's no protein deficiencies among vegans and vegetarians. It's never heard of. People just want to hear good news about their bad habits, so they're going to say, I need to eat meat to get my protein. How do we proceed? Dr. Zook said I need to make big changes in my diet. To begin with, he said I have to switch from beer to water. Then he said I have to switch from fatty foods to cooked vegetables and fresh salads. What'd you do? I switched doctors. Don't switch doctors. My patients call me Dr. Food, and you can actually email me if you have questions. Here's my email address. It's which is, watch that now. Watch it, Charlie. It's as in Martin Miller, DR as in doctor, and the word food, F-O-O-D, mmdrfood@aol.com. If you have questions, if you need help, don't hesitate to email me. I'll definitely get back to you. Questions? That's it. Boy, that went by fast, huh? I didn't talk too fast, did I? All right, good. So questions? Yes?
Tomatoes, good or bad?
Okay, you know the answer to this. It's a plant.
Yeah,
Okay, so good or bad?
good.
So if you're thinking about nightshades, like Wendy said, some people are sensitive to nightshades, which are potatoes and eggplant and tomatoes, but we don't even really consider that unless you have reactions or sensitivity to it. You won't know unless you do some type of crazy blood test.
So an article I was reading said something about the seeds and what is it? It was called something gut.
Leaky gut syndrome? Leaky gut.
That's what it was.
Well, if you have leaky gut, there are foods you do have to avoid, such as gluten. Now, gluten would be a big one. Now, most people are not super gluten sensitive. There's celiac disease, which means when you have a little bit of gluten that much, you have major problems with your bowels and your gut. Leaky gut, if you have it, you really do need to be on a strict diet. Gluten-free to begin with, which is rough because there goes your pasta, there goes your bread. But you can get gluten-free pasta and bread now that you couldn't get 10 years ago. You'd have to get that tested and you'd have to trial it. A lot of that's trial and error, where you eliminate this particular food and see if it improves your symptoms. Most people with leaky gut have major bowel symptoms and major gut symptoms. Do you have that?
No, I just...
You were just reading about it?
Right, well,
Yeah.
I've had bowel issues,
Yeah.
so I was reading up on it and stuff, and they gave the impression in the article that, the majority of the people could get this,
Right.
by eating these foods, and so that's not true either.
Right. It's a new concept, and there are people that I know with leaky gut that are very strict on diet, but they're mostly looking at the gluten. I haven't heard anything about the tomatoes. To be honest with you, I don't know. But a tomato, lycopene, protects your prostate, vitamin C. It's loaded with nutrition.
Antioxidants?
Antioxidants, of course. So I would say I don't know the answer to that. I've heard of it, and I've heard that gluten is the major culprit in leaky gut, but other things could be too. I've had people that have blood tests, they can't have soy, they can't have garlic, they can't have gluten as well. It makes it for a very restricted diet.
So they can, through a blood test, they can find out?
Yeah, I think they can, yes.
Leaky gut
Right.
syndrome?
Yes.
Test is that, which doctor do you go to get those blood tests?
I think you go to your primary doctor first, and then you might go to an allergist, something like that, to see. I really don't know. I've had people that have these blood tests, and they come back and they're told not to eat these things. So it might be a GI doctor. I would think probably a GI doctor.
Okay.
Yes.
If they fill out their forms, I can collect them for the drawing.
Yes, if you fill out your, let's just do some more questions, and you can fill out your evaluations as you're talking.
Probiotics.
Probiotics are, they won't hurt you. Again, if you have gut issues, you probably can take them and they'll benefit you. It's kind of a new concept, and there are people, their gut flora is messed up based on their diet and things that they eat. So I would recommend it if you do have problems with your gut, like, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. It doesn't hurt to try it. It's a very inexpensive way of trying it. But having a high fiber diet is the best way to clear up your gut problems. You're not getting enough fiber in general.
That's what helped me, was increasing the fiber.
All right, good.
I was watching a program about the wheats that we eat today, or typically that most people eat today, and that has caused a huge gluten problem with people. But if they go back to the old, like the Emma and the einkorn,
Einkorn, yes.
there's no problem with gluten.
Right, good point.
Okay, so if you could explain that.
Yes, there's the grains that people are eating now in bread have been hybridized. They're not genetically altered, but through genetics, they're changed, so they have more gluten content and other problems. And the ancient grains from Italy, einkorn, what's the other one? I never heard. Emma, I never heard of that one. People can eat those without problems. Now, are you talking making your own bread from these flours? Yes. Which you could do, that's a challenge. I've heard that's a challenge, but it can be done.
I buy the berries.
You do?
Grind them.
Yep.
Yes.
If you have gut problems, it would be worth a shot. And you can get some of this in pasta, einkorn pasta, and other things that are already pre-made. But that's a good point. I don't know enough about it, to be honest, but I do know that that's a concept, and our old Pastor Brian learned about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Can you spell that, Eichhorn?
Einkorn. Einkorn.
Thank you.
I'll just take you, Colleen.
If you want to stay healthy, eat good like that, but you don't want to lose weight, how do you compensate?
Well, you would eat higher fat foods. You're not diabetic.
I'm fine, I just can't, I lose weight so
Right.
easy.
You
and
would-
I'd like to keep my weight level and not lose.
You would increase the nuts and seeds and avocados, the fat content, unless you had heart disease or diabetes. You look like you're at a good weight now,
I only weigh 107,
but you're only 5'1".
yeah, but I feel better with a little more weight.
Okay, all right.
A couple, 3 pounds.
3 pounds. Boy, I'm trying to lose 23 pounds. We don't want to have ageism, but for a person of your age, you're doing very well.
I'll be 88 in September.
Yes, okay.
Oh, wow.
You could increase the snacking on some of the nuts and stuff, and you would be okay. Normally, I don't tell people that, because most of the people I see are trying to lose weight. You know what I mean? Yes.
I read an article where somebody is totally drying zucchini and grinding it up and supplementing some of their flour in their breads and things.
I've never heard that, but that would be a low-carb flour. And again, as people are trying to get away from carbohydrates, these people might be trying to do on a paleo or a keto diet. It wouldn't hurt anything. I don't know how it would be. But anytime you're in the vegetable group versus the starch group, remember the starch group is the rice, the noodles, the potatoes, the winter squash. Those are high-carb vegetables. Those will raise your sugar, but when you're eating no fat, it doesn't really have an effect on your sugar. And then you have the non-starchy vegetables, such as the zucchini, the green beans, those have a very low effect on your blood sugar because they're only 5 carbs per serving. So if people do that, there wouldn't be a problem. But they're just finding ways probably to make their bread or whatever they're making lower in carbohydrate.
I think one of the main things was using up zucchini.
Oh, using up zucchini, that's a good one. All right, good job, Teresa, good job. All right, any other questions or comments? Remember, it's the fat you have to worry about, because what percentage of diabetics are overweight? 80% of diabetics are overweight. And, again, weight loss helps the insulin resistance. Fat intake helps the insulin resistance at the cellular level. Of course, you do need to be active. If you can walk 30 minutes a day, you're going to see a drop in your blood sugar. Eating more salads, the beans, of course, the fiber takes the carbs out of your gut. Doesn't affect your blood sugar. This is where the high fiber diet really, really does a number on your blood sugar and your weight and everything else. So we want you to get to that point where you possibly could reverse your diabetes. Any other questions, comments?
You said something about if you've been a diabetic for a very long time and you really can't be non-diabetic.
You may not be able to. Again, it depends on your pancreatic function, because these medications that people are on, the sulfonylureas, they push insulin out of your pancreas. And so as the pancreas gets overworked, it can't make enough insulin, then you have to be on insulin. So depending on where you are in that, if you tend to be overweight, you're going to get a benefit anyway. We all of us need to lose weight if we're hypertensive anyway. So it kills 3 or 4 birds with one stone. The lipid problem, the diabetic problem, the heart problem, and the hypertension problem. So those 4 things, it's going to improve you. And when you go to the doctor and you're losing weight, they're going to give you a lot of credit, because they want you to lose weight for your joints, for your blood pressure, for your cholesterol, for your liver, for all of it. So this is where this diet, and if you look at your McDougall foods to eat and not eat, it's quite strict. But again, if you follow it to the letter, you're going to get vast changes that help you to continue on it. And then you got to change this, because if you think you can have moderation, it never works. Doesn't work. Yes, Wendy.
People often say, when they know that you're a vegetarian or a vegan, that's impossible because you don't have the protein. Well, I've been a vegetarian since I was 12 years old. And I have no diabetes, I have no high cholesterol, I have no high blood pressure, and I go to the doctor, and I do have issues because I have a bad spine. I have
Right.
scoliosis
Yep.
and stuff. But he says, I don't have anyone in their 70s like you are that's as healthy as you are.
Right.
I have no lifestyle problems. And it really, it's a lifestyle diet. It's not a diet, it's a way of eating that really pays off.
And we'll help you. We'll help you. We're going to have cooking classes. I'm going to have another lecture here to help you through this. You're not going to do it alone. We can help you with it. And I had high blood pressure all my life. So when I got my stent, I wasn't surprised, even though there was no heart disease in my family. I always had high blood pressure. I was always on pills. And now I have no pills, and my blood pressure is 125/60 all the time. It's amazing. So, Doris, you have a question? Oh, yes, question?
You talked about the recipes on it. You said you can get them online.
Yes.
What website.
Okay, well, just go to Google. If you go to Google and you punch in, let's say you want to make lentil soup. You punch in vegan, no oil lentil soup. And, I mean, the only thing you're going to do is you're not going to saute all your vegetables in olive oil. You're just going to put a little bit of broth in there, saute the onions and the garlic and stuff. Then you're going to throw in the lentils and you're going to cook it.
Or Pinterest.
Pinterest, yeah.
Pinterest has zillions.
Also, a benefit of this that I hadn't thought about when I first started doing it was your kitchen stays so much cleaner. You don't have to grease all over, you know.
Believe me, believe me.
Yeah.
When Joan went to clean up on top of the cabinets there, the amount of oil that was all, remember that, Joan? Now we don't have that because there's no oil flying everywhere and sauteing everything in oil. And your food bill will go down as well because you're going to be buying, you know, black beans for $1.15 a pound instead of, you know, Hamburg for $3 a pound. The rice that we get at Sam's Club is 25 pounds for $20. I mean, the potatoes, they've gone up, but you're going to eat, your food bill is going to go down as well.
You know, your black bean burgers, my brother Joe, has he fed them to you guys? Yeah. He makes them all the time. Yeah,
They're very good.
yeah.
Any other, yes, Cheryl?
So basically, since I don't retain all this, pasta is okay. Flour, if we were to buy it like from the grist mill
Yep.
or, okay, but it's what he's putting on it.
Right, so when you think about pasta and flour, you're thinking about generally white pasta and white flour. Those are low nutrient density compared to whole wheat items. If you eat bread, we make bread that's half wheat, whole wheat, and half white. It comes out better. The wheat one comes out very dense, or sometimes you can play with it and it comes out better. The whole wheat pasta, if you can tolerate it and like it, has more nutrition. As long as you're not adding the fat to it, you're going to do well with the insulin resistance.
Well, I think my husband went to a new doctor, and he's still not, he did say eat more whole foods, less processed, but he's saying grass-fed beef is fine, and butter.
Well, again, this,
Better.
yeah, the doctor is still focusing on carbohydrates, not realizing that the fat content at the cellular level is actually inducing insulin resistance. And again, people want to eat beef and they want to eat butter because eliminating butter and oil is a challenge. It's a challenge to your diet because you've been eating butter and oil all your life. Joan?
Why don't doctors tell their patients more about this way of eating?
They don't know it.
They don't understand it.
That's right. They don't know about it. They're not trained in it.
I only ask that question because a lot of people don't realize that their whole 8 years of college or medical school is just
One nutrition course, right.
a fraction of nutrition.
Right.
I've asked my doctor how much training they had in nutrition, and it's almost
Nothing.
zero.
Right.
It's like one class.
Well, the other thing too is you have to give this a try. And unless you try it for 30 days, close to 100%, you'll never know the benefit. And that's where you have to go. Because if you do it and you're just dabbling in it, you just have the same thing. You lose weight, you gain weight, you lose weight, you gain weight. You have to do it. And once you see the results, you're going to be shocked. It just happens. You saw the case studies. I'm a good example myself. Doris? Question? Oh, Ada.
If you're fasting blood sugar, what should they be?
Under 100.
Under 100?
For a non-diabetic. If you're a diabetic, 100 to 140 will give you an A1C of 7 or less, which is the goal. Any other questions?
Well, I was just going to mention, I was raised vegetarian and my mother lived to be 101. She didn't have anything wrong.
It's amazing. Well, animal foods, you know, I mean, there are always exceptions. There are people that eat all foods and could live a long life, but this does work, and you see it by the blue zones that they studied.
So Martin, give an answer to why her mom lived so long.
You're talking about toxic load?
Right.
Well, nowadays what you're seeing is because of toxins in the environment and in food, pesticides, Roundup, these types of things, younger and younger people are getting cancer, heart disease, and diabetes at a younger age. My dad, he eats everything. He's 86. He's very active. He's starting to break down now, but he doesn't eat a lot, and he eats a lot of venison every day. Venison, 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 you know. But he didn't get the toxic load that happened after 1960, whereby the pesticides and all these chemicals came in. Now you're seeing women with breast cancer in their 20s, even Joan's niece, cancer in the womb because of toxins that she got through the placenta. So that could be a factor in your mom living to be that long as well. She was vegetarian?
I still have 2 older brothers, too.
Wow.
Upper 90s.
Wow. Are they vegetarian?
One is.
One. So yeah, again, it could be.
He was raised that way.
All right.
Farmers?
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 No.
No.
Well, back then, that's what they ate.
Yes.
They didn't go to the grocery store.
Right, right.
No process.
Yeah.
I think we also need to recognize that we have to do this on our own because like we talked about the true ignorance of the doctor, okay, about nutrition. But it goes even beyond that because when I was talking to one, I had Graves' disease and I'd never heard of it till I got it, but I went completely vegan. It took 3 years, but I still have my thyroid and my eyes are back in the socket like they're supposed to be.
Right.
And I don't have it anymore. But my endocrinologist back in St. Louis never even asked me what I did. I have a friend that got over MS and another friend anyway, they've never been asked by their doctors, and I found out why. And that's because the doctors have to give them what is in that physician's desk book, or even if nothing happens bad, they could still get sued and lose their medical license. So we have to do this on our own.
Right.
And not expect the doctors to be able to help us because they can't professionally.
Right, and they have standards of care, like you say, from the book,
Yes.
and they don't get any money unless they give you pills. Our doctor, they had to stop their practice because they weren't making any money, not giving people pills. Preventive medicine doesn't make you any money.
I will say though, now I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna forget it. My husband dropped all his heart meds and diabetes meds, and I was frantic. And he actually had this primary doctor back along, but we lost track of him. So that's who he's seeing now, and the doctor actually said he has a 7.2 blood sugar now.
Okay.
He said, as a medical doctor, he never thought he would tell a patient that they made the right decision.
Right.
So he's halfway. I mean, he's saying eat beef, but he said his numbers are good.
Right. And he's managing his diabetes as best he can, right?
Yeah, I think what it was, whether he wants to admit it, is that we did stop eating a lot of beef.
Well,
And chicken once in a while.
yeah. Well, the saturated fat from beef and processed meats should not be eaten at all. So your bologna and your pepperoni and your hot dogs and your bacon, those things we know they cause cancer because of the nitrites and nitrates, and we know they're high in fat and sodium, so those things should be gone. But beef is related to a lot of disease. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to eat a can of sardines, eat a can of sardines. Okay.
They're all
This is it. So this is the raffle. We're raffling off 2 things. We've got the Forks Over Knives video that you can watch, and then you get your choice of any of these books. I'm recommending this book by Dr. McDougall because it has recipes with pictures, and it has the red light, green light, yellow light system. Dr. McDougall went to his grandkids and said, how can I teach, this to people in a simple form? They said, Grandpa, use red light, green light. So he said, okay. So the red light foods you don't eat, the green light foods you eat, and the yellow light foods you're careful about. And so if you stuck with this inner part with the pictures, you see the problems associated with an animal-based diet. And this is the one with the constipation. They really like this one because it shows the guy on the toilet with the toilet paper. They go, "Grandpa, we really like that picture the best, you know." The constipation one. The healthiest diet on the planet. And then it goes through that, and then you have recipes in the back. That's the one I recommend. But you might want the forks over knives. Again, this is similar. These are all no oil, plant-based recipes. Engine 2, this is Rip Esselstyn, Caldwell Esselstyn's son. He was a firefighter. He was working at a fire station, and most of the firefighters died of heart attacks, not of the fires. So they were dying of heart attacks. So he said, well, let's take the whole group and put them on a plant-based, no-oil diet and see what happens. They all lost weight, dropped their blood sugar, dropped their cholesterol, and got off their pills. That's the Engine 2 diet. Same thing, tells you how to do it, and the back is all recipes, no oil recipes. And then this one is a really good one if you just want recipes. This is the Neil Barnard Reversing Diabetes Cookbook. This is all recipes. A little bit in the beginning about why this works, and then recipes. So I gave you a choice. 2 people are going to be able to choose what they want from the stack. First one is Tom. All right, Tom. Boy, you got lucky on that one.
What would you like to?
And then Cheryl Helms. All right, Cheryl, so Wendy will bring you over something to pick out there.
Yeah, this is right off. Yeah, all right. There, Cheryl. Oh, all right. So this is the DVD, and then this is the book, Cheryl.
Lucky.
That's great.
You like that one? Yep. Okay. Well,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Good for you.
Any other questions or comments? We're so glad you're here with us today. We hope you're encouraged and inspired to make some of these changes. And we're here for you. Yes. You? My wife, Joan.
Address exercise, the importance of exercise if you're diabetic.
Do you want me to address the importance of exercise? What do you want me to say? You have to exercise. But what's interesting is 80% of weight loss is due to diet and only 20% is due to exercise. You cannot out-exercise a bad diet. You cannot. I had people, they're walking all the time. I was walking all the time. I never lost a pound. I was, again, 276 pounds when I had my stent. And it's like, I never lost weight because I'm Polish. How much kielbasa did I eat? How much mayonnaise did I eat? How much mayonnaise did we have in the basement on stock?
About 20.
20, you know, when you have on stock, that's what you can't come short on, you know? Half and half. How much half and half did I put in my coffee? How much butter did I eat? So when I got my stent, even though there was no heart disease in my family, I thought, well, that's kind of odd. And then I started reading about what kills people, and I did everything I could to get killed. Luckily, it didn't happen. So you need to move. Moving is going to help you, but it's not going to overcome a bad
A
diet.
lot of people think it does.
No. And it's hard to say because, you know, we had somebody come and they say, well, I walk 15 minutes a day. First of all, that's not enough to do anything. And when you're eating bacon and eggs and pepperoni pizza and all that, you can't help it. It's just not going to happen. So, any other questions?
But it's good, it does bring down your blood pressure, walking.
Yes, it helps everything. Your joints, your blood pressure, it helps you sleep, it helps you stress. You know, it's part of a healthy lifestyle is exercise. You know, getting out into the sun. We have a New Start acronym where we use the word New Start. Nutrition is N. E is exercise. W is water. S is sleep. New Start. T is temperance. A is air. R is rest. And T is trust in God. So they're all part of the lifestyle lifestyle changes you can make in order to live a better life, so.
So Martin, if you were to choose one thing to start on for high blood pressure, exercise?
Well, processed foods have a lot of sodium.
Yeah.
So if you were eating junk foods and cheese, which is one of the worst, and people love cheese, believe me. You know, they're eating 33.8 pounds of cheese per person per year. That tells you something right there. And again, doctors are going to tell you to eat cheese because there's no carbs in it. I mean, it's ridiculous, you know, and so they don't understand this. And they're going to say eat grass-fed beef and butter because there's no carbs in it. And when the patient dies of a heart attack, it's not going to surprise me, but it's, you know, of course, your husband's on cholesterol pills, right?
He dropped that too.
He's not on it at all?
No.
Well, that's pretty good. But I mean, what's his cholesterol?
His triglycerides were a little elevated.
Right. But I mean, has he had his cholesterol checked since he eliminated? What's his LDL? I mean, his LDL needs to be under 100 if he has heart disease.
Okay.
And most people can't get it under 100. Mine was 39 when I was on a cholesterol pill, so they said you don't need that. LDL of 39, figure that out, it's crazy. No, that was my LDL was 39, my total cholesterol was 91. So, any other questions? Wendy?
Well, it's not really a question, I just want everyone to know, perhaps you'll be back in August with another presentation, and as we have been doing, we'll be doing more cooking classes and having different things, so the forms...
Okay, Tom.
The forms that I got today, I can let people know when these events are going to be.
All right. Well, let's close with prayer. Heavenly Father, we again thank you for everyone here. We pray for each family represented. And we pray that we'll not only use this information, not get it into our heads, but also just use it. And if we eliminate these foods, remember, health comes from what you take out, not what you add in. Eliminate these disease-causing foods, especially no oils. We'll get a result. Lower everything, feel better, get off some of these medications. To your name's honor and glory, and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Good job, you guys. Excellent, excellent.
Yes, thank you very much. I learned a lot there.
All right, good.